A warm welcome to everyone. Our session is on implications from international financial institution investments and Asian context. I am Angel Flores, International External Affairs Manager at World Animal Protection, and I will be your moderator for this session. At World Animal Protection, our vision is a world where animals live free from cruelty and suffering. Thank you, Asia for Animals, for inviting us to be part of this policy clinic. We often hear the phrase, follow the money, and today we will do that to understand the growth of industrial animal agriculture and what we can do to disrupt that financial flow. Money plays a key role in fueling the factory farming industry, which poses great threats to animals, people, and our planet. Banks and investors decide the allocation of resources, which is usually driven by maximum profit. This leads to more factory farms being built and more farmed animals being produced at the cheapest possible cost to meet consumption demands. Today, our speakers will shed a light on this issue, what their organizations and campaigns are doing, and explore what policy changes on finance are needed to build a better world for animals. Without further ado, let me now introduce our first speaker, Among Prakosa. Among Prakosa is a key animal managing director for Indonesia. He started to fight for better conditions for farmed animals in 2017 by visiting farms and talking to farmers, participating in cage-free campaigns, and doing public outreach. Let us welcome Among Prakosa. Over to you, Among.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you, AVA, for holding this session and to give us an opportunity to share, learn from our last campaign. So today, my presentation is focused on what's going on in Asia regarding the multilateral bank investment, multilateral development banks investing in farm animals or a factory farm here in Indonesia. So let me start my screen. First, is my sounds clear? Well, thank you.
Yeah, very well.
Oh, thank you. And now it's praying time. So please be used to the most sounds on my background, but hopefully it's not interrupting my presentation. Okay, so I will focus on our Sinergia animal campaign, hashtag Stop Financing Factory Farms. It's because the trends of multilateral development banks running money to the factory farms or high intensive animal agriculture, it's going on in Asia. And today I will highlighting one current case and also the other takeaways from the last campaign currently running by joint working for other NGOs like Worldly. So, and yeah, this is what's happening since 2020 that development banks start funding their farms. And one article from the Bureau of Investigation Journalists can show how its adversaries impact of this investment in not just Asia, but it's interconnecting within continents, because as we all know that our economy is not isolated anymore, and it's also devastated, but we have like opportunity to interrupt or disrupt this practice in animal agriculture sector. So why stop financing factory farming? It's because actually the MDBs or multilateral development banks are institution that gain money from the country members. So practically it's public money. So we have like moral and also obligation to stop this practice and to push the finance bank to support more sustainable food system and also local communities instead of major factory farms. And in this publication, one of the MDB's members state that they are focused on achieving the SDGs, while the investment practice or action it's contradictory. It's not in line with what they state publicly. And why its adversary is for to achieve SDGs. It's because factory farming it's affecting lots of goals and sustainable development goals. As we can see, lots of goals are in threat if we've continued to support this practice in animal agriculture and not to streaming the money to the other sustainable food system. And so this is the recent case in Asia, and it's not the biggest one, but already the Guangxi Yangshan, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it well, it's the one of top 10 pig producer in China, currently asked loan for IFC, International Finance Corporation, for $47.3 million to raising their capacity in with current numbers already big, like 23,000 breeding sow per year, and they want to increase it. And this information mainly we can access on IFC disclosure page, but sometimes other investment not published yet, so we've also need to work with others organizations that have access to the investment plan. And so our first attempt is to send a letter to the IVC about the potential impact of this investment and addressing the deforestation issues, because the companies will be importing cereals for feeding the pigs, including soy from Brazil, and it's already be like international issues about deforestation that happens in Amazon. And also we're addressing that this investment not aligned with Paris Agreement, because it will be boost the greenhouse gases emission. But we are addressing that on the disclosed information, it's kind of underestimating the projected greenhouse gas emission, and they do not take account into the supply chain. It's just measure what's emission on the site, not the whole supply chain. And also about the animal welfare, so the particular issues is there is no evidence that the company complies with World Organization of Animal Health guidelines on castration, tail docking, teeth clipping, and so on. And others issues is it's undermining food securities. Even the FAO has warned that continue to use cereals for animal feed would threaten food security, because it's reducing grain available for human consumption. So this plan of investment is not agreed yet, but now I would like to share the latest success campaign with Marfrig, the world's second largest beef companies. It's in 2021, they've applied for $43 million from the Inter-American Development Banks, And based on official publication, they stated that the main objective of the project consists of supporting MAFRIC. It's to accelerating investment to strengthen the sustainability. Even the international community already know that MAFRIC have a record on deforestation in Amazon. So with the coalition member, we've raised a campaign to stop this investment plan. And this is what's the effort we've done is first, like we sent a joint letter with more than 200 signatories, and many of them from Brazil. And also we've addressed the list of social, environmental, and government violations in this investment plan. And also we questioning the use of development aid for such a big conglomerate instead of for local communities, and highlighting the role of beef in driving climate change, deforestation, zoonotic disease, and antimicrobial resistance. So getting coverage by news outlets, reputable news outlets internationally, it's really helped the campaign. So this is several example of news coverage for this campaign. And also there is from the Norway government to review this plan before it's the voting day. So lesson learned from this campaign after about 5 months, the campaigning is like what's caused, like maybe caused the victory because of we haven't win a lot of campaign. So from the MAFRIC in particular, so what's we can try to adopt in Asia, it's like working in international level with lots of NGOs to put the pressures and raising awareness or gain public discourse about these issues, and involve publics to raising question about why the public money going to the factory farms instead of more sustainability food system. And also exposing law throughout media outlets. And the main arguments with MAFRIC campaign is the violation of indigenous rights and the adverse of environmental impacts. And also it's very important to join action with other NGOs before the non-voting days. So make a buzz, and again, raising public question. It's very important to get the country members' attention on this plan, and also if the time frame it's very close, like we don't have lots of time to mobilize the most of the public and also other organization. Trying to focus on postpone the voting days would be give our time or buying time to organize the others members of organization and to support this campaign. So yeah, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Among. I would like to encourage our participants to drop in their questions via the chat, and we will have time towards the end to ask the questions. But really, what captured me in your discussion, Among, was this alignment that's needed to be seen from multilateral development banks in terms of their commitments, whether that's in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals or the Paris Agreement, and holding them to account because they are handling public money. So it's really interesting to see how the MAFRIC case came about. And definitely, I'm sure later we will have more questions as to what made that a successful campaign and what other challenges do you foresee moving forward? So before we move on to the question and answer section of our session, I'd like to now move on and introduce our second speaker. So we have with us Simcha Nyssen, and she's representing GAIA Belgium. And Simcha studied communication and marketing with a focus on international relations and negotiation strategies. Fascinated by human intrinsic motivation processes, she went on to study business psychology. She was always surrounded by animals, and advocating for more animal welfare has always been an important part of her life. Today, she focuses mainly on the global protein shift, technological innovations in cellular agriculture, replacing conventional animal-based products by cell-based alternatives and precision fermentation or plant-based hybrid solutions. She believes in a holistic approach of transitions, looking at the interconnected entity and the importance of understanding the complete outline. Approaching stakeholders, understanding the dynamics of transitions and the social impact, identifying resistances and opportunities, and looking for long-term solutions. So welcome, Simcha, and over to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Angel, and thank you also for the very interesting presentation from Among. I really liked it very much, and I will try to adapt my presentation a little bit so that our information doesn't overlap. So yes, I'm working as a project manager on societal transitions, and I'm specializing on cultured meat. I will explain in this presentation a little bit more on our organization, about our focus, how we work, and then I will try to explain a little bit more why we concentrate on cultured meats, and another project is Respect Farms. I will explain the financial flow in Belgium, the policy frames, a little bit more on the European perspective, and then I will give an overview of the recommendations in the Brazilian study. So at GAIA, we try to put a lot of effort in research, in supporting research, because we think it's very important to convince policymakers. So yes, this is our organization, GAIA. We exist for over 30 years now. And this is a picture of our founder, Michel van den Bos. I think that we could say that GAIA is one of the most influential and one of the most well-known animal rights organizations in Belgium. I was lucky to be an activist in the early years and now to work for them. I have seen the organization growing also in the years. And now the focus is on policymakers, creating awareness with the consumers, and reaching out to corporate organizations. We do this by lobbying, education, sensibilization. We do also actions on the field. We very strong like to improve legislations, and we support research. So when we look at policymakers, for instance, we try to, with the consumers, we try to create awareness, and we ask them also to put pressure on the policymakers or to put pressures on certain corporations. We strongly support research on several levels. So my perspective is more on foods and on cultured meat, but we do this on different levels. And let me show why we want to focus, or one of our focus is on farmed animals. I was really surprised when I first saw this picture about how wrong we all went now. I mean, if you look at the percentage of wild mammals, it's incredible. If you look at the humans, then at the livestock, pets, it's less than 1%. So if you look at the amount of livestock animals it doesn't have to be a surprise that our Earth is really the balance of the biodiversity is completely gone. And the problem is, if our current food system is built on this, so we really have to work on the food system to make a change. And from research that we did, we saw that although I don't eat meat, of course, but many people are willing in Europe, and especially in Belgium, they are willing to cut down their consumption of meat and to eat less meat. But most of the people still want to eat the real stuff. So if you here look at the global consumption of meat, you see that on a global level, the last 20 years, the meat consumption went up and still is continuing to going up. And the meat consumption, or the livestock production, is responsible for at least 14.5% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. So that means that we have a very good opportunity to battle the industrial farming. For us, it's from the perspective of animal welfare, of course, but if you look at the bigger picture, not everybody is concerned on animal welfare. We can use this very good, this raising concern on climate change and the loss of biodiversity. We think that this is a fantastic opportunity to create awareness on our food system, and with this we can help all the poor animals in the industrial farming, but we can also have a positive impact on biodiversity and animal welfare in general. We also see that the current food productivity is now 20% lower. So that is only due to climate change. This is the report based on the 195 members of the IPCC board and thousands of research people who are working on several reports. So we really think that this puts food at the heart of the climate battle, and this gives great opportunities for us. I forgot to mention, this is true, because when I'm speaking in an environment like this, what is really so nice is that to see and to hear all these people working and fighting for the same cause. That is really like a relief for me when I can speak in an environment like this. What I also want to give to all of you is, I don't know if you do that in your organization, but we try to focus on informing very well our members. Like, we see them as almost like an army. I mean, with GAIA, we're with a small team, very motivated people, but we're kind of a small team. But we have many people who are supportive and who are a member of the organization. And what we do is we try to inform them as good as possible. Like, for instance, sometimes we get a call that people ask us, yes, can GAIA do this or that because the dog of my neighbor is mistreated? And of course, we don't have the authority to go there and to get the dog out, but we have a list of the steps that people have to take when they see something. So this I would really encourage, because sometimes you have the feeling that there is so much to do on animal welfare and you only have so much time, you only have so much colleagues, so there is too much work for us to do. And then it is so important to inform the people who are your supporters, who are your members, to inform them very well so that they can take a part of that job too. So that is something else, but I really wanted to share this with you. Okay, so if we look at food again, it's a global need. Around 75 billion or 80 billion, it's depending on the where you look for the figures, of land animals are slaughtered every year. And then I'm not talking about 52 billions of chickens. So I think if we can make a change in the food system, this can mean such a big influence for so many animals. We see that to fight the biodiversity crisis, we have to lower our percentage of livestock animals, so this has to go down. We see also, again, depending on the source that you go to, but 70% of the freshwater withdrawals are used for our food supply. We pollute water by the nitrates that we use for our land. So I think that if we want to make a big impact, and also to make our policymakers listening to us, I think that our food system is really a very good way to do this. When I look at the financial flow only in Belgium, and I must say that Belgium is a very small country, we see that still today there is a lot of money moving to this sector, which is actually incredible, because we know that it is very bad for our environment. We know that it is very bad for our biodiversity system, and still we see that a lot of public money is going into this sector. Like Among told us before, if you look at the projects that the World Bank is still funding, it's incredible. So what we try to do with GAIA is that we address our policymakers, and we try to convince them to use this money for other things. And we try to convince them based on research. This is a very important part of our work. Like, for instance, we had a research done by Brazilian researchers. Why did we choose Brazil as a country? Because beef is a very important source of income in this country. So if we look at the transition, which is complex, because you don't only involve the company itself when you want to change that, but you involve a complete system. It is very important to know what the social impact of this change will be. And so that is why we asked the Brazilian researchers to do this study. It was made in 3 parts. So one part was only on Brazil, and the second part was on the social challenges, mainly in Brazil, the opportunities. And then the third part, they also looked at the United States and Europe. So, as I explained before, Brazil is the world's largest exporter of beef, and the second largest producer in the world. In the study, we saw 5 possible social challenges, 9 possible social benefits, and 6 recommendations for the policymakers. Now, what were the challenges that they came up with? Of course, there will be if we go in a transition where people eat less meat because of a more plant-based diet, because of alternatives like cultured meat or precision fermentations, this will mean a reduced demand in conventional products. This will mean job losses, also in slaughterhouses and in breeding companies. And we see that the lack of knowledge and information can be a strong backhold to enter this new chain. So this is really very important that we focus on. We also see that in the beginning of these new alternatives, the high prices may be a problem. So this is also something that is really important to address towards policymakers. If we want a change in the system, money makes the world go around, and we should make sure that the money, the public money that is invested now, should not go to this industrial farming anymore, but we also should look at the financial aspect on another level. And that means that the consumers, the people who buy the products, they also need to be able to buy these products. And for the moment now, it is I'm sorry, it is cheaper to buy a sausage than to buy a good alternative, a healthy alternative. So this is also very important. And we also see that the lack of proper information might cause consumer resistance. So if people don't get the right knowledge, like for instance, many of them, they think that they need meat to have a healthy diet, and especially in Europe, in the Western part of the world, we just consume too much animal-based products. So we should inform people about the health risks of that. We see that many diseases are related to a high consumption of, for instance, red meat. So this is something that we should educate people also about. Now, we also have possible social benefits of the transition towards let me rephrase that. So we should transform our food system towards more plant-based food, to more cultured meat and precision fermentation food. And this also brings social benefits. And this means one of the benefits is, for instance, that there will be new job opportunities. And because of the better conditions in these new jobs, because it's clear that when people are working in slaughterhouses or in conventional farms, these are not nice conditions. Also in Europe, in Belgium, if you say that, okay, I'm a farmer and I work with pigs, this is not conceived as, for most people, not conceived as a nice job. Many people ask questions on animal welfare, on the impact of on our biodiversity or on climate change. So we think that one of the benefits of this transition could mean that people feel proud of their job again. This could be a good thing. We also believe that this could mean higher wages, better working conditions, but also higher wages. And again, here we have the financial gain that we could have on this transition. What we recommend for policymakers is, of course, to make a change in the investments, to establish a national plan linked to the country potential and needs, establish innovation clusters. They should invest in transition systems. For instance, when a conventional farmer would like to move to more plant-based products, or if he would move to, in the future, cultured meat farm, for example, this should be supported by the government. And in the beginning, the government didn't want to listen, like cultured meat, for instance. When I spoke with policymakers on agriculture, they were not interested at all, because they said, no, cultured meat is something very high tech and there will be no perspective for local farmers. But then we heard about a project from Respect Farms. It is a project from Ida van Elen. And Ida is the daughter from Willem van Elen, who is one of the founders of Cultured Meat. And she understood that it is really important to offer a perspective, a financial perspective towards farmers, to see if cultured meat could offer perspectives for them as well. So now they see cultured meat as a threat, but the project of Respect Farms is a feasibility study where we will see if it would be possible to, for a conventional farmer to become a cultured meat farmer. And these are things that are very interesting, because if we cannot show that they can make money out of a transition towards plant-based alternatives or towards cultured meat, people will not be interested. So money is key here. Informing consumers is key. Make your supporters like part of your army who can address policymakers to use this money for other things, to address even financial banking organizations. We should use the power that we have with our members and with our supporters. We should inform them so that they can help us to put pressure on policymakers. I don't know if I have the time, but I would like to show a short movie on respect farms, because I think that cultured meat, I don't know if all the people who are following this presentations are familiar with cultured meat, but very shortly explained, it is that we take a biopsy of an animal who is alive, of course, and then we will take the cells, we will nurture these cells in a bioreactor, so outside of the animals, and this will make the cell grow. And by growing these cells, after a few weeks, we will be able to harvest them and to make meat out of only a few cells from the animal. And so, as I mentioned before, Respect Farms will see how this could be a perspective for local farmers to make the transition. I would like to share a movie where one of the farmers, it's a conventional farmer now, but he is part of the project of Respect Farms, and he explains why he thinks it is interesting to be a part of this project and why he thinks it is interesting to be part of cultured meat. On this research, and you will see in this movie that his animals, together with the province and his animals, he lowered down the amount of his animals. So he has fewer animals now, and they are running around freely on a nature reserve. So it's a project combined cultured meat with also better biodiversity. I'm looking at Angel. Do I have the time to
Yes.
show this? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
we have time. Yes, go ahead.
Let
Simcha.
me just check if I can move then to the movie. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes. Okay, I'm just going to show the movie here. I put on the sound. I put it on pause because now it is with a Dutch translation, and I want to change it in English. Let me see here for the options. I did it before, but apparently it goes away when you go to the presentation. So I should change this again. It's in the Netherlands. Netherlands, no. How can I do this? I'm sorry. I'm just going, or otherwise I can show it to you in Flemish or in Dutch, and then we just have to share the link so people can. I put it here on. No, I cannot change it. I don't know why it is. I tried it before, and then I could put it on here, English. Oh, now we have it back on English. No, I will show it in English, and I will share the link of the video. If you click on the link, you should be able to change the subtitles, but I think now because it's combined with the presentation, it's not possible to do. And I think that you will not have sound, so you will only see the images, but then you can see the conventional farmer who shows his animals. And what he wants to do is he wants to create an experience room where people can taste cultured meat. So it's not possible yet, but it will be, we hope it will be possible in the near future, that people can taste the meat, they can have a very nice meal, and afterwards they can go with a horse and a carriage, into the nature and they can see the cows that are still alive, and from that cow they just eat a steak. So that is the idea that Leon wants to explain. I will show the video now. So I put the link of the video. Oh, let me, I don't know if you heard this. I will put it out like this. So I put the link of the movie and also of the website Respect Farms into the chat. I will end my presentation here. I hope that I could give you some more new information, and thank you very, very much for this platform again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simcha. That's very interesting indeed. As you said, this field is still growing, and there's a need to grow the awareness as to how it works and what are the impacts, as you've already outlined earlier. So now I think we're ready to move to the question and answer portion. I'll begin with the first question. Thank you again, Among and Simcha, for your presentations. Our first question is from Fajar, and this question is for you, Among. So in your opinion, and based on your observation and your experience, is it more effective to put pressure on these banking institutions or to raise public awareness instead and urge the people to shift their eating habits so that animal agriculture can be phased out gradually? Or should the focus perhaps be more geared towards transforming lands used for farming animals into, say, for example, sanctuaries or plantations, and educating and empowering farmers during this transformation?
Oh, thank you. That was a great question. So I will answer this based on my perspective. I believe that there's no single based back on history. There is no social change because just one direction, pressure for just one direction. So I believe every attempt or every issues, it's important, and also because us as activists or organization, we have different expertise and also focuses. So I would say that those are all important. So, but we need to build connecting the issues. We need to align our work together. So I think, especially in Asia or in Indonesia in particular, so what's we need to be done, it's to start talking or build conversation between activists, organization, and address we addressing big issues that we can tackle together and align our effort on those. Otherwise, all this try or attempt or movement would be I would say it would be weak, because we've chasing out different direction. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you, Fajar.
Great. Thanks for that, Among. Yeah, indeed, the systems change model to creating a better world for animals entails different entry points. I see Rich here also saying, giving a comment, we need a holistic approach. I think this was also touched on by Simcha earlier when she spoke about the entry points for a protein transition as well around climate and biodiversity loss. There's also a question here for you, Simcha, from Fajar, and it's, I'm going to read it. It's, I think what's interesting when comparing what's going on in Asia or Indonesia at least versus in Europe, consuming animal meat here is seen as a proximity to Westernness or whiteness, and therefore coolness and upward mobility, considering that Indonesia and much of Asia is already plant-based. A lot of the culture around consuming animals in Asia has to do with colonialism and imperialism imposed by Western countries, especially the US. I'm also curious, however, is it challenging to shift the paradigm among Europeans that plant-based or cultured meats are meats? When you think about it, they're just not made from dead animals, so they are not fake per se. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much for that question. I think that is definitely one of the bad things from the West and to take over. It's not at all cool to eat animals. And to come back to the second part, I think that plant-based meat, it is difficult to convince people. That is one of the research that we have done, because if you look at the impact on our climate, I think the most gain we would have from plant-based. So if you look at plant-based food, the impacts on energy, water consumption, and things like that is fantastic with plant-based food. However, not all people in Europe, we did a study in Europe, so I cannot speak for other parts of the world, but they are not willing to change to a complete plant-based diet. They still want to eat real meat, and that is what the potential is for cultured meat, we think. So if people want to change to an alternative meat, plant-based can do it perfectly. But if they still want to consume the real stuff, then cultured meat really offers a possibility, because there you have the real meat. It's completely the same. It's just You don't have to kill the animal. You just take the cells and you make them grow outside of the animal. But this is real meat. It's not a fake product. This is real meat. And I think this is the potential for we just received very good news 2 days ago from the US. They got the green light. So for the moment, you could only eat cultured meat in Singapore. But very recently, the company Upside and Good Meat also got the green light to enter the US market with their products.
Wow.
Great news indeed. I just wanted to follow up on your response just now, Simcha. If there are already emerging stories of change or stories of emerging success around a protein transition, and can you give an example, and how do you think can these experiences inform policy and investment decisions?
Yes, so what we have, for instance, in Belgium is, so we have the Green Deal in Europe, and to obtain the goals from the Paris Agreement, we should lower down in every European country our greenhouse gases. And for that, we have the Green Deal, which is on our food system. And this is a project from our government, but many organizations like GAIA, but also retailers, supermarkets are involved in this project. And so it is for the consumer, and the supermarkets, they are obliged to offer many more plant-based solutions. So the narrative that the government will tell to the public is to go for half-half. Half animal-based products, half plant-based products. This will already mean a change for many consumers in our country, and this is supported, like we mentioned before, the holistic, the layered approach is really very important, because this should be supported by, for instance, we have famous chefs coming on television and explaining to people what they can make for this week. And they also should be involved. They should show the people what they can make with plant-based products, because, you know, many people that just take their sausage or their steak and they don't know, okay, if I stop eating the steak for today, and if I want to change it to a plant-based diet for this day, how should I replace my steak and how should I make it? So this is really important, to have chefs on board who will explain this to you, but also in the supermarket. When you go in, you have a shelf with recipes, and that the supermarket makes sure that there are many plant-based recipes available. So yes, we have a transition going on. We also see that our meat consumption year after year is going down. But it is very important to be supported by the government.
Exactly. Yeah. So this brings me to my next question to Among, which is very related to what you just said around the importance of government support. One of the common responses among that we usually get from development banks when we raise our concerns on industrial animal agriculture is that governments who are their shareholders ultimately decide the priorities and where investments go. And often it's food security that they cite as the main need of their country. And this is very, what do you call this? This is what we're seeing from these developing countries, for example, and emerging economies. So how does the SFFF campaign respond to this dilemma, wherein global South countries say food security, and there's still that mental model that factory farming is essential for food security?
Yeah, thank you. That's pretty hard issues that we would have to face. But first, there's a lack of scientific-based research that's showing up. Even we have like IPCC report and FAO recommendation about plant-based food system, it's better than animal products. But again, the government, they have not mandatory to following up the recommendation, either it's from the UN, for example. So I think what we can do from the national level, it's to, like what Jonathan addressed, it's start to engage in these issues with the government, like for each countries, and showing up the evidence that for long-term projection, it's better to start build like sustainable food system, like the real one. So, and promoting like a plant-based protein as the priorities for the government. It would take a long time, and also we face like the conception that animal agriculture industry, it's most efficient way to provide proteins for the public. But yeah, without we start conversation with the government, then how we can change that mental model? That's what you say. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that. Just wanted to read out as well a comment from the chat from Tang Beng Yong, saying that animal agriculture threatens food security, as a lot more land, water, etc. is needed for it to feed a given number of people than for plant agriculture. A given amount of resources can feed more people if it is used to grow plant foods. Thanks, Tessa, for that additional insight there. Another question for you, Simcha. This is from Craig. So why do you think there is a disconnect, as you described, between the kinds of advancements being made for animals within UN agencies and the increase in funding of projects by the big financial institutions? Are they not obliged to adhere to such international policies, or does it just take time to trickle down?
I think there are several reasons. I think one of the reasons is also that they are not well informed. I mean, if you look at the UN directions and like One Welfare project, it is clear that animal welfare is related. But if you look at the people in those financial institutions, they don't have the knowledge on animal welfare, so they also miss knowledge on that level. And I think it is really important that organizations take action to inform these organizations about this. So it's kind of, part is misconception, lack of knowledge. I also think that they are just used to financing this. And as we spoke before, the transition should be holistic, but it is not holistic yet. So we see that on some levels there is a change, but this change is not coming down on all the levels. So this is why we need to put constant pressure on different stakeholders and different organizations to make them aware of the changes that need to be made. And I was thinking on some other thing. In my other question, there was raised the fact that the West often influences people to be hip and trendy and to eat meat, that this comes a little bit from the West. I think that it's really interesting to, and I will put this also into the chat, that you see that important ambassadors in the West are now focusing on plant-based. It's not a strong movement yet, but I think that some very important people are doing this. Like, for instance, somebody like Richard Branson is investing in upside food, in cultured meats. Somebody as Serena Williams is making promotion for a plant-based omelette from just egg. just also had a contract with Jake Gyllenhaal, who has won an Oscar for his acting performances. They also had a commercial with him eating plant-based eggs. So I think things like that are really important for upside food now. They just got the green light to put the cultured meat on the US market. But what they did now is they have a collaboration with a very famous French 3 Michelin star cook, and she will prepare the meat in her restaurant. Now, of course, this is not democratic, and only a few people will be able to eat this. But I think that unfortunately, money makes the world go around, and many people who have a lot of money are very influential and are role models to other people. So I think it could be a wise choice to position cultured meat now in hip and trendy and expensive restaurants in the beginning.
Great, thanks for that, Simcha. And I have another question for you, Among, also from Craig. On your point about joint action with other NGOs, of course, the development banks are in different levels. There's regional, there's national, there's international in scope. So even if the project they fund is more nation specific, there's those different levels. So besides from coalitions like APC, for example, or the Asia Policy Coalition, what do you think are other ways that we can convince our colleagues around Asia to participate together on this important area of work?
Oh, yeah. First, I have to acknowledge that this trends. It's like we raise the awareness about this global investment or multilateral development bank investment, and it's not new regarding the investment, but since they have like a statement about the sustainable development goals, then we could start from that. So back to the Craig question. I think what's Asia for Animals does, it's start something like gather all the organization in Asia to like join efforts and like a joint letter. For example, with others campaign, our others campaign for K3, it's we get help from Asia for Animals for contacting all organizations in the region to send a joint letter to the leadership of Subway. But also I've imagined if we can broaden the scope of this like joint coalition. It's like share the knowledge about these issues. It's because not all of the organization in Asia already aware about this type of investment. So first, provide knowledge, and also current loan proposal from the animal agriculture companies would be a good starting point, I believe. And from that, we can try to like, I would say it's like an exercise to join campaign, like in like a need coordination for each organization, not just start by one organization and reaching out for like voting or support for the petition, for example, but also hold the street action in the front of like the government, because of in case of multilateral development banks, it is government inside it. So if, for example, if Asian Development Bank wants to invest in particular project, we can start to campaign for its in each countries that member of the ADB. Yeah, that's the raw idea what I propose. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Among. Yeah, definitely some of the key takeaways from this session really is that there are several pathways that we need in terms of doing our advocacy and to pressure governments to take action. It's not just dealing with the governments themselves or talking to the development banks and investors. It also requires working with the wider public, building their awareness. Also, the private sector, definitely this was touched upon by Simcha earlier, like the role of retailers, the role of chefs, influencers, and so on. It's a whole of society approach to really make this happen. But we've discussed, really massive and complex issues, and that require also massive solutions and holistic solutions. But I want to end with a tone where we're hopeful. So I'd like to ask Among, Simcha, as our closing statement from you both, what gives you hope in terms of the work you're doing? Yeah, who would like to go first? Simcha.
Yes. Well, what gives me hope? Well, to be honest, many things. I am very, very optimistic about the progress that is made on meat alternatives, plant-based. If you look at the possibilities of precision fermentation, and I also think, it's not, I work on cultured meat, but it's not that we see cultured meat as the solution. I think that cultured meat is one of the solutions. I think that plant-based and precision fermentation and cultured meat, these three combined can be the solution. And if you look at the possibilities to make hybrid products, like to put precision fermentation ingredients, to put them into plant-based food, and what possibilities you have there opens up a range of new things that are incredible. So I think that the new innovative technologies give me a lot of hope. I had the possibility to taste cultured chicken in Singapore last month. And although I must say I'm a vegetarian for many years now, so I cannot make the comparison of cultured chicken and the real stuff. Or no, I should not say this. Now I make the mistake I don't want people to make. It is the same stuff. Yeah. But if you compare it, so the slaughtered chicken to the cultured meat chicken, to me, I think it's the same, but maybe I'm not the best placed person to say this. But we tasted it at Huber's, and the owner from the store was there as well. And he eats meat every day, and he's very, very much specialized in all the details of meat. And he told me that, he says, it's amazing, but it's really completely the same. So things like that really lighten up my day. And also, I must admit that since I work as a project manager on this, I have contact with many people like you guys. And that gives me a lot of strength as well, because sometimes in the past I had the feeling that I was fighting on my own, yelling in the desert. Yeah. There are so many things that we should address, and to meet all you guys, that gives me a lot of strength as well, a lot of positive vibes. And I think, which is also very important, and then I will close the fact that so many things are that we face so many problems now, like the climate change and the loss of biodiversity. This we could really use to improve animal welfare. And I think this is really very important for us, and we should all work together and inform our members and all the people that we can to put pressure on policymakers.
Great. Thanks so much, Simcha. Over to you, Among.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Simcha that this type of event, it's really raised hope that we are not in this world to be alone. There's a lots of colleagues outside, like working in the same direction. So yeah, what's AVA doing so far? I think one of the important part is keep the hope there. So we feels like we have a I would say like a comrade and try to make us small changes, and also the public awareness about the alternative protein or alternative protein or alternative meat, it's raising. So there's others significance that what we doing so far, it works, even it's not bring like drastic change in this food system issues, but there is a change. So I'm rooting for that to keep my hope like strong. Yeah.
Great. Again, thank you so much to you, Among and Simcha, and to Asia for Animals for this platform that you've provided us. It's a wonderful way to end, at least in my part of the world, my Friday and my evening, approaching evening. So thank you so much for the inspiration and that message of hope. And again, a reiteration that we do need to work together, and we have something that connects us. So with that, I'll close this session and hand over back to Ngoc An. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for attending our event. And thank you Angel, Among, and Simcha for the great and practical sessions. I would like to conclude today's sessions with a brief introduction of upcoming events. After this event, I would like to remind you that we will send a feedback form to you. You're welcome to share any ideas on how we can improve the quality of our events, and also suggest new ideas for future sessions. So in August, we have 2 sessions already lined up for the second installment of this policy event. It is expected to take place in August on the 23rd or the 24th, also on Zoom. And so the upcoming sessions are incorporating science into policy advocacy in Asia, how to find the common ground. And the second session is the 5 pillars of WOA's global initiatives in Asia, adopting a non-anthropogenic lens in policy advocacy. And in October, as many of you know, we have 2 major physical events, both in Malaysia. Coming up first is Asia Farm Animal Day from October 8 to 10 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And more information can be found at our website, asiafarmanimalday.com. Last but not least, our AFA Sarawak conference organized between October 11 and 14 will take place at Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia. Registration information can be found on our website. And if you have any questions about our events, or you could always visit our website here, so asiaforanimals.com/events. And if you have any personal questions for me to address about the events, you can always send me an email to policy@asiaforanimals.com. And thank you once more for participating in our events, and see you later. Thank you.